Oh, such a sad little can. It didn't make all the fun popping and hissing, but it is still the sweet, sweet sounds of another episode of Social Distance Drinking Club. This time is the bar open edition?
Well, my home bar is.
What's going on, Mike? I'm excited for today. This should be fun. We've got some fun guests joining us, and we get to talk about Arizona reopening. I guess that's what we're gonna call it. It's like we shut a whole state down. We shut our lives down. Definitely shut barbers down. Haven't gone back yet. This one's wily, but never mind. Adam, you win this one.
Yeah, no, don't worry, Yusuf. You're fine.
Much better, guys. Much better.
But, before we get into it, and I'm stoked to have this conversation and have these people join us, I do want to, as usual, start off by asking, what are you drinking, gentlemen?
Watch the open beers down below. Adam G., what did you just crack?
That's from Jailbreak Brewing Company, White Russian Cream Ale.
Georgia, represent.
Nice. Good stuff.
Got a little beer through the mail system this week, and this is one of them. So,
yes, legally through the mail system.
Yeah, no, I had to sign for it and everything.
Good.
To show I was 21.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Brett, what did you?
Got my Pueblo Vita hat and my Pueblo Vita Ataraxis here.
Nice.
And for those of you joining us in the comments, tell us what you're drinking. I am not. I'm abstaining at the moment. But Adam Ledford, I know you've got something delicious in your hands.
I do. So in honor of the fact that we are tackling a many-headed beast of an issue today, I decided it is time indeed for Hyper Mash Hydra.
Ooh.
So we're going big today, so don't expect too much witticism from me in the second half.
No,
somehow I knew Adam was going to come flex on us real hard with the beer. I was expecting a weight ratio, and it was not that far off.
I love that you guys have used like the excuse. These are beers that we would have shared, and you guys are using the excuse that the bottle says "drink fresh" to be like, guys, I am so sorry that we can't see each other for 2 more weeks.
Oh, Adam has another one. I drank only one last night. He has another one he can.
Yeah, we're fine, guys. We're fine.
Adam, you're a lucky gentleman right now. It's a delicious beer.
I'm excited. I said the word hyper, and immediately Julie came in off screen and was like, me. So I'm now splitting it, which will be much better for the show.
It's Mother's Day, so whatever you poured into that glass is all you're getting, and she should have left with a bottle.
Exactly.
Which, before we get into the hot topic of the day, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there and to all of your moms.
Yes.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yusuf, you should add to the banner of "What are you drinking? Have you called your mother?"
Have you called your mother? Yeah. Have you called your mother? That's
Before you finish the bomber of barrel aged stout.
Well, guys, we took a poll earlier this week. It ended today. I'm actually pulling up those results right now. They changed ever so slightly, which is kind of interesting. But we took a poll and asked, are you guys planning on dining in anywhere this week? As Arizona?
Context is that's going to be a possibility this week starting in Arizona, right?
Because it is a possibility this week starting in Arizona. Rob's going to fill us in on some of the people who have officially said they're doing that. I've got some public statements that we've seen on Facebook and such from other people. However, what I found interesting is we had about 300 people who voted, and the final tally was 79% said no, and 21% said yes.
No, that they will not dine in anywhere.
They would not be dining in anywhere. Correct.
Which is an interesting start to the conversation of just because you can open, should you, even from a business sense, right? Like we talked about it, I think, in the last show, right?
We did indeed.
Restaurants and bars operate at thin margins most of the time anyway, and if they're giving a maximum capacity and they're only at half of a capacity, they're better served probably by saying, hey, employees, here's $100 a piece. We're still staying closed. That's my way of minimizing losses and supporting you.
Here's what we're going to find out today is what is the right answer for each of these unique establishments. Has anybody kind of cracked that nut and figured out a way that they really think that this is going to be economically viable? I'm definitely interested to kind of see what ends up happening today.
Do you want to show that to everybody just so we have it there for reference? 291 votes.
Also, Yusuf, when I shared this poll, I had 2 people respond to my share to the story. one person said nope after voting, and another person said hell nah to add on beer nah.
Fair enough. There were some interesting comments. Some people said, if it stays at 21%, great. That's a socially distant amount of people, like a safe amount of people for physical distancing. But again, like you said, we'll touch on this a little bit later once we get through a conversation with some of our guests today. I do want to start with Rob Fullmer. Adam Ledford, if you want to go ahead and please introduce our dear friend, Rob.
Yeah, so executive director for the Craft Brewers Guild of Arizona Craft Brewers Guild. Good friend, and he's been on the show before. So I don't know. There's too many people who are involved with any facet of craft beer who don't know Rob. But I just wanted to say, as we bring him on, just a lot of kudos. This is a thorny issue. There are heated opinions on all sides of it. There are people trying to keep their jobs. They're trying to keep their businesses that they work to create. They're trying to keep their families safe. And in the middle of it all, we're just trying to, Rob has been instrumental through the guild and just as an individual, trying to just hold the middle and kind of keep, keep both sides civil and keep all sides. It's not even just a two-sided issue, but he's done just a great job as a moderator behind the scenes in the Craft Brewers Guild, as well as in a public forum with people who care about this, both in Tucson and Phoenix. So just wanted to say kudos. There are other cities in Arizona, I know that, but we're going to represent Tucson and Phoenix. But anyway, yeah, without further ado, let's bring the man on.
Sounds good. Rob.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Rob.
Thanks for the introduction, Adam.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're here to support all of our members in each of the individual decisions they're going to make, and it's not binary. Even when people say they're going to open, there are a lot of degrees of freedom in which you can open. And I think in my conversations, everyone's taking this very, very seriously. And I think it's, if people are skeptical, that's great. I actually don't know how I'm going to behave as a consumer just yet. I'm looking at each of the individual messaging that is put out by breweries to see who I feel would feel most comfortable visiting. And I'm going to continue to visit the places that have drive up only or delivery only. So the 21% you mentioned is a great figure, actually, I believe. And it kind of lends itself to this easing in. We don't have one opinion on this. And as consumers and as policymakers and as businesses. So I think 21% is about, it's a little lower than the percentage of breweries that I think are going to open like a week in or 2 weeks in. But I think that will be throttled back or forward depending on people's reaction to it.
And I agree with that. I think there's also, so we've seen some different answers looking on online and with some of our guests we have here, for example, Brandon Casey from Casey's Woodshed, friend of the show and bar owner, has told us, he's going to wait a little bit. We'll bring him on and he'll talk about why. You've got kind of an official list of who is opening, members of the guild, right? Is that public? Is that something you can share with us?
I think if you find the hashtag AZ Retapped, you'll find a lot of them making their initial statements. There's about 30 of them. I wrote some of them down. I mean, they run the gamut. We've got Catalina, Button, Barrio, Sentinel Peak. That would be a lot of the Tucson breweries. Granite Mountain, Beer Research Institute, Oro, Oso, Phoenix Ale, Huss Brewing Company, Oak Creek, Uncle Bear's, Lumberyard, North Mountain. Yeah. And again, it doesn't mean their entire tap room is going to be open. I would expect a smaller place might just be dipping their toe with a few seats, and because that 21% is going to really dictate how this goes, right? So for those that think that this is not going their way and it's careening out of control, and I think that we're some of the most thoughtful and process-oriented people in food and beverage industry, and we're here to make sure that we make good decisions.
Well, with that, I want to bring in Brandon Casey. Brandon, if you're there, give me a thumbs up. Brandon owns Casey's Woodshed. in Tempe. Brandon, you have the option, obviously, to open up tomorrow, right?
I do. I think.
You think, yeah. Yes, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. The city of Tempe shut me down 2 days before the governor of Arizona shut me down, and I still have had no official communication from the liquor board, and I hold a Class 6 license. I also have a full-service dine-in license from Maricopa County Health Department, and have had zero communication from any of those people. And to touch on that list of recommendations, it's a recommendation.
Right.
Hey, Casey, I can answer your question for you. I mean, you can open if you provide a menu and you serve food. And I have the kitchen. Great. So you have the tools, and I can step you through the guidance. I know that local agencies and state agencies haven't always been in sync, but we've been working real close with the folks that need to be worked with. And but I can totally understand easing into this. Again, I don't know what I'm going to do as a consumer, and I don't know what I would do in your shoes.
I mean, just to honestly, just be responsible, member of my community, I'm going to stay closed for a little while. And just keep offering dine out, like takeout, curbside, to-go cocktails, food. But I can't. It pains me to say it, but like, dude, I worked my whole life going my own bar, and now I don't even know like how to do it.
How long do you think you're going to stay closed, Brandon?
Probably at least a couple weeks.
Okay, and that's, you said all your neighbors. I mean, in the Tempe area, all the neighboring dive bars and bars in general, they're all opening up, right?
Yeah, I'm probably the only bar of like my style, like dive bar style, in miles that is not going to be open tomorrow.
And I find that interesting. I know you and I talked about it briefly earlier, but like I thought it was insane that everyone was opening up, and you were just like, you know.
Yeah, hey folks, sorry to interrupt for a second. It looks like we might be having a little bit of trouble with our question stream, so I'm going to jump back scene for a second. Sure. Folks, if you guys have questions, just send a private message through Facebook to any of the hosts, and we'll be watching those, and we'll bring them online as quick as we can. So thanks for bearing with us on that. Sorry for the technical there.
Good day for Facebook to not work for us today.
No.
All right, I'll pull you back. I know that Brett has some questions he wants to ask as well, and I'm sure Adam Green does too. Brett.
Hey, so like, the question I have, Brandon, is like, as an operator, you know, is that if and when you, assuming you open in a couple weeks or whenever it is, right? Like, what kind of steps would you take to make it easier to operate, even if it's at a lower capacity or things like that, like limited menu? Do you have minimums? Have you thought through kind of things like that, or anything along those lines?
There's a lot of different like weird options. But I mean, honestly, it starts with basic housekeeping. So getting rid of bar stools, so no bar seating, because even if someone's in the bar, they can't be 6 feet away from the bartender. It's physically impossible. So kind of limiting like dining options that way, and then kind of controlling the flow of traffic, getting rid of all my patio furniture. I'm just going to put a drink trail in to kind of minimize the congregation on the patio, because we're on the biggest patio in the world. It's even like weird that like I'm going to only let people use the jukebox from their phone. Like I don't want people touching the jukebox all the time. And then probably keep the same menu. I mean, we have a pretty limited menu. It's dive bar, we can make chicken wings and burgers. But yeah, but pool tables. So I'm looking into transitioning pool tables from a quarter-based system to hourly, and then a break in between with enough time to sanitize the sticks and the balls in the table. Because, you know, I don't need to get rid of them because I don't need more seating, which is typically the argument against pool tables in the first place. But yeah, just making sure that there are systems in place to be able to keep everything safe and that right amount of distance. And then I've been fortunate enough, and I'm honestly super lucky that my takeout business has been able to flow before this. So I want to keep that as a new business, like part of the business model, and then fold in dining, winning when I feel it's safe.
Yeah, it was interesting because I actually I had to go. It's a funny similar thing where it's like people are adapting. Like I had to go get my emissions tested done yesterday, and they had whole systems.
Last week it was a pain, and I waited so long.
Well, it's like they, usually have to like push a button to get the ticket, and they're like, the crossbar is gone, and they're like, I'm gonna push all, like, when you have to pay the $17 or whatever it is. It was even like, because that's even a hard thing for like a restaurant. Like, how do you pay for something without touching everything, right? Like, you're inherently, there's Apple Pay, things like
touch and lick everything.
Yeah. And that, the other thing I kind of wonder, and maybe this is something that, depends on, the agencies getting a little smarter. Would there ever be a situation where you'd be like I know what Yusuf, our one of our co-hosts, went and got, they were offering free testing, and he's getting antibody testing, which ostensibly, if somebody has antibodies, they're immune, right? Like, is there a world in which somebody can say like, hey, I have been tested, I was asymptomatic, I have antibodies, therefore I'm immune, and therefore,
It's tough. It's a legitimate question. So we're putting in place for when I do reopen, like a checklist for my employees. So they'll be, temperature checked every day. It'll be kind of like a log. If they're above certain temperature, they don't get to work. They got to go home. But I was a bouncer for about 7 or 8 years, and it's hard to predict people when you don't know if they're sick. So like policing guest behavior is going to be a challenge. So we really just have to do your due diligence to make sure that they are practicing your version, any operator's version of what the operator gets to say.
Right.
That kind of leads into my question, because this might be more for Rob even than Brandon, but it seems like there's more recommendations than guidelines coming out from the government what to do when reopening. And I know as a consumer, that kind of worries me. It's like, I want to go somewhere where I know it's going to be, everything's going to be on the up and up, perfectly safe as it can be. And I'm wondering if there's anything that you're telling people, you're hearing from business owners and maybe even consumers, like, this is what people want to see in their establishments, in these restaurants, in these bars before they go back. Like, is there any common theme that you're hearing to say that you can then turn and say, okay, I recommend you do this, this, and this, and then people will come?
Well, I mean, it's not recommended to take a tequila shot by drinking the tequila, snorting the salt, and squeezing a lime in your eye, but I've seen it.
Yeah, I've been working with other state directors on this for quite a while, and followed some of the early opening states. And for our group of people, we've amassed every guidance and every best practices you can imagine. But there is a difference between what is a policy ask from the government, and part of that was we positioned ourselves, if there's going to be opening, we want to be included in the first group and given the option. Being process-based, working with PPE already, used to running SOPs, regulated industry that we are, and knowing full well that some people would take advantage of that, and others would sit back and sort of assess. So, our policy asks were that, and we supported the to-go liquor. And Brandon, I'm sorry I called you Casey earlier. I think what you're doing,
you're fine.
What a lot of people is correct is, like, there are some possible new models, business models potentially happening right now, and so I think that people who have a good delivery business and to-go business can sort of ease into this. But the second layer is what everyone says the CDC guidelines say. The CDC guidelines, well, they're guidelines. The CDC doesn't have any mandate. You'll notice that the president, he does not have the ability to push these. I think he'd like to think he does, but he's having some friction with governors, and governors are having friction with municipalities. This is a social contract, and so when the CDC guidelines say should and not must, those aren't legally binding, but they're great ideas. And I think in totality, each business should sort of wrap their arms around, no pun, what the best way to do that is. And to your point, there are some things that our customers are looking for. They are looking for employees to wipe things down. They're looking for touchless systems of payment and transaction. They're looking for, and before all this, there was always a wide variety of opinions on whether gloves are effective in the food service industry. But they look for those signals to say that that's important. People are constantly asking me, should we require masks until people are seated? I'm like, you're really going to have to play that by ear, you're going to have to look at your customers and figure out, and that's why you're seeing people say, well, we're not opening on day one. We're maybe 10 days out, maybe 2 weeks, for the purposes of me communicating to everybody about breweries. I'm like, I don't consider that day to be the day. I think the 2-week period in general is something to look for. So,
yeah, Rob, would you say that, like, in a funny way right now, it's a more complicated question to open or not open. It's not a political thing. It's a business question, and I think a lot of things today just get made political, right? But like, you got to think about some of those things. You need your customers and a sufficient number of them to feel comfortable. And so, is that like an opportunity for the bars and restaurants to evaluate how they operate and be able to communicate that out to the consumers, to be able to say, hey, here's why you can't, here's what we're doing to stay safe, and here's how we can do this in a good way. And that's almost like the best marketing right now for people that are to get them feeling comfortable enough to come to those establishments.
I think so, and they need to position themselves to say, hey, we tried this and we're not comfortable. We wanted to give it a roll, and looking at this in practice, because to write all this stuff on paper and to have your employees execute are two different things. And so we should not be afraid to fail and step back. But we're not going to know until we have a group of us try this.
What you just said is a great point, Brett. We'll come back to you in a minute. And Brandon nodded his head and pointed right at you. To write it on paper versus actually executing it is a whole different world. And I think that's a concern a lot of people might have. The other thing that I'm taking it a whole different direction. I want to have our friend Kyle join us here, and Adam, I'll let you introduce him in a second. But before I do, I want to touch on something that came up yesterday. I know that you talked about it. Brett, you mentioned I did go get a coronavirus test. I did the whole thing just because they asked me if I wanted to. I just wanted to get the antibody test, but I figured, why not, for your viewing pleasure, you could watch me get my brain tickled. So I did that. And I was standing in a like 8 feet apart line of people waiting to go get blood drawn. And 2 of those people just happened to be people who worked in the industry. One of them was a bartender. The other one was a server. The bartender told me that he got a call from his employer that said, you have to come back to work on Monday, meaning he is now ineligible to collect unemployment. He's got to go back to work. But also, he has no choice. If he doesn't feel safe, sucks. You have to go to work, or you just have to, give up on that and give up on your unemployment and go find another means of income, or another source of income. That's an interesting slippery slope people are in. We lost Brandon. Hopefully he comes back. I'm curious what he thinks on that. But what you guys think out there in the comments, let us know. Are you dining in this week? Have you heard who is opening, who's not? Rob, write us through a list of breweries. And what was that hashtag again that people can check?
AZ Retapped.
AZ Retapped. Perfect. Adam, you want to introduce our next guest? I'm going to throw this hashtag in there for everyone to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. We're lucky to have Kyle Blessinger in here today. In addition to being a seasoned restaurateur, manager, and has worked in lots of positions in and around several restaurants. He's a good buddy, and they're doing some really cool work with an organization to try to provide a little bit of relief here in Tucson. And we'll talk for servers and folks who are out of work. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but just as someone who has been in the industry for a long time, I wanted to bring him on today and kind of get his thoughts on the restaurant openings as well. So what's up, Kyle? How are you, man?
Hello. Hi, everybody.
First of all, what you drinking, brother?
I have the All Together collaboration that was put out by, this one was made from Oso, but it was put out by, I believe, was it half?
Other half.
Other half, yeah. As an open kind of collaboration for the quarantine, pandemic, corona, whatever you want to call it.
There were a lot of great being together while being alone puns for me these last few weeks.
It's creative, to say the least, but it's delicious. Actually, it's the first time I've had it, so it's pretty good beer.
Nice.
Very nice. So, Kyle, I know that you've been instrumental in helping a couple of restaurants here in Tucson kind of get open. And in a lot of ways, this whole pandemic reopening feels like that day one opening a business, because no one knows how many people are going to show up. No one knows what the hell they're supposed to do. We got a good idea, but it's a real mixed bag of recommendations versus requirements. What do you think, man? I mean, is there do places have a shot at success on this?
I think, it's like you said, and I want to reiterate comments that have been made before. It's for lack of better term, it's a crapshoot, I think, at this point. I've opened 16 restaurants since the age of 16, something like that. So basically, average of one a year for the last 16, 17 years. And it's a different challenge every time, but in the same way, it's almost the same thing. We haven't seen the coronavirus before. We haven't seen shutdowns like this, but there are other issues. There are other pickles of sorts that we've been in that we can lean upon. I think it is completely possible that we can succeed. It's being military. I hate to use the phrase, but adapt and overcome. That one's kind of been drilled into me for a while. There are alternative ways to do this. Unfortunately, I've been along the school of thought that if we all open right now, like you guys said, it makes employees ineligible for unemployment. Restaurants operate on a 5 to 7% margin. If we're at 25% capacity, I'm now paying my entire back of the house staff to cook for the same amount, regardless of whether it was like a Monday in the summertime or today, Mother's Day. So there's some adaptation that can happen. I think it's completely possible. Possible and plausible are two different things for me.
And the employment thing is a perfectly valid reason as a business operator to hold off and see. We understand that. The tools to fix that are legislative, but as an individual business, you have to do what's right for you and your employees. I totally agree with that. At the same time, I know that a number of businesses, especially the breweries that are adding food, and we should probably talk about what those requirements are. You have to provide dine-in service. Mm-hmm. That can be done through your own kitchen if you have one. It can be done with a neighboring business and understanding as to the timing that you could be seated and served. It could be a food truck. It can be people bring in their own food, but you can't rely on it. It has to be a program. It has to be documented with a menu. You have to be asked, and in the aggregate, not everyone has to eat at the same time or eat. But again, it's an agreement between customers, the business, and the state that the only way that we can try to open some of these businesses is to have social distancing, and the setup of a restaurant is much different than a nightclub. And how do we separate those ideas?
So
the opportunity to say we're not a nightclub, we're gonna behave more like a restaurant. They could have just said everyone with a 12 license, a restaurant license, as you know it, can open. But the governor did say, hey, there are bars where you get a burger, which is exactly what Brandon's place, Casey, is, and he doesn't want to stop them from opening if they feel they can.
That's what I wanted to just go back and touch on for clarity. So they have to provide dine-in service. I mean, if I've got a food truck outside that regularly is outside of my tap room, I can open?
That's correct. I would not rely exclusively on that, though. I would have several businesses that I talk to make sure that they can deliver and find out their hours, because if they close before you do, you can't be left in the lurch. I would hope that people have some pizza places on speed dial, and they're not Domino's, and they're not the big chains. I would hope that this is an opportunity for some of our restaurants and bars and breweries and wineries, by the way, and some distilleries to work together and build some relationships. And let's come out of this with some coalitions and some a sense of neighborhood. I think that would be great.
Right. Hey, Brett, you've got a question. I want to bring Brandon Casey back in here when you ask this too. So Brandon, there, I think. Yep, there he is. All right, so we got Brandon here.
Yeah, I have a question for all you guys because Rob, I think you kind of touched on it briefly, and I want to maybe have you guys talk about this from your perspective as it relates to the open, no open decision, right? Because you're talking about like the consideration of employment, unemployment, things like, and the risk of having, you know, the crapshoot, right, that could go sideways after the first couple of weeks. What consideration are you guys getting the sense of like owners of like, you know, I don't know the unemployment system that well, but like if the restaurants shut down, people file for unemployment, but then if they get called back, they have to be called back versus if they come back and then you guys have to shut down again. You know, does that, you know, add multiples of problems onto the staff, and what considerations for those kind of things are going into your guys' decision processes?
Brandon looks like he's smirking, so I'll let him answer that one.
I am always smirking. But no, it's a very good point. Especially if you have anywhere from a small staff to a large staff, you know, a lot of these cats are actually making money right now on unemployment is what it is. And it's also summer in Arizona. So we were going to be slow anyway. So, I mean, honestly, like a lot of the owners I've talked to, like we just work more. Like shit, I've had one day off since we've had to close. And it was because I closed for Easter. Like actually totally closed, like no takeout or anything.
Yeah, and I don't know if Brandon, if you missed it, I did say that is a consideration for an individual business owner as to whether they open. It's completely valid.
No.
One of the asks that we had in conjunction with the Restaurant Association and the Arizona Licensed Beverage Association and a number of other business coalitions is that you know, early on that the unemployment insurance system have some forgiveness for the, you know, for both the owners and to waive the waiting periods. And I apologize, it's not my fault. The unemployment system is completely broken. You might have filed on March 10th or 11th or whatever it was, and you still might not get checks. I know they're completely overwhelmed, and it's a failure on our social network, our social safety net for sure. There's not a lot that anybody in this joint can do to fix that, but it is a consideration. And so to open, close, that is going to impact people's bottom line for sure, both the owners and the employees. And so again, why we respect everyone's decision.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same thing. It's like, okay, if I reopen and I rehire all my staff, they don't get the unemployment, but I'm at a lower capacity. And you know, am I taking care of my employees as well as my guests? I don't think so. So I just don't see it viable right now just to even open the dining room.
But I will tell you, I have ventured out here and there, and I've seen it, and I've seen and heard things. And if I'm sitting in my living room and I'm hearing things out there about speakeasies and people kind of bending the rules, I'm here to say that everybody knows about it, including the people that can find businesses and so on and so forth. And they don't have to bust you that day. They don't have to bust you the next week. They can wait a year and say, hey, by the way.
Oh, you want to renew that license?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you can't. Fuck you, baby.
So this is, again, you know, there's that phrase in economics about quantitative easing. Some of these things, you may not say that you're ready for on-site consumption, but if somebody rolls into your bar and just wants a pint of beer and is going to stand in the corner, that gives you a little bit of option to maybe do that. I know there are plenty of places where people like pick up and like, hey, let me get you a pint while you're waiting. It happens all the time. I'm not saying anybody is in
a lot of that.
Please, but
a lot of that.
Yeah,
not in my bar.
No, I honestly, I saw people taking out sushi and standing outside waiting for their order, and they were double fisting in like the parking lot. I'm like, this has opened up a can of worms at this point. I'm waiting on my takeout California roll, but I ordered $40 worth of takeout booze.
Just to let you know, one of my ideas that I threw out there that got rejected was like, let's just make this an open campus drinking situation.
I mean, isn't it?
It should be.
You just can't drink in my bar. At least you can. The second you walk across that threshold, it's to-go booze. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, but because let's, just to acknowledge that it's happening, and you can draw some regulations around that make it a lot less. It makes it easier for folks to wrap their arms around it and figure it out. But that's what we sort of asked for. It didn't really make it to paper as an official ask, but
And there's one thing I know we keep talking about the physical distancing aspect of things and giving somebody a pint, having them in a corner. Aside from all of that, something that I know we just briefly talked about, and Kyle, you can give us some of that input as well. And Brandon, you've mentioned this, but it is a financial thing that you have to look at. You got to weigh everything out, right? Like Kyle, you were saying the cost of running your whole back of house staff and paying them the same thing only to have an output of 30% of your normal revenue. So is it worth it? Brandon, you mentioned some people may come in if you're trying to limit your capacity. Do you really want to serve people $2 PBRs?
No.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like I ran a restaurant where, a higher end restaurant downtown in Tucson where we operated on 35%, 45% food costs, being a high-end seafood restaurant, high-end steak restaurant. If I open up to, my seating going from 125 to 27 people, what does that do to my food costs? Then with that food cost, what does that do to the amount that I can pay my employees, the amount of hours that I have, my overhead, all of my operating expenses?
Yeah, especially if you're a scratch kitchen.
Right.
Because at that point, I can't open if that's the case. And that's the case for a lot of these restaurants. A lot of my accounts now, we're not going to open because as soon as we open, we're going to lose our butts on this.
I want to bring in a new person here, Brett Shapiro of the Paradise Valley Burger Company. You guys have seen him on the Food Network as well. Brett, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. How are you, fine gentlemen, today?
Doing very good. Thank you for joining us. I have not had a chance to come out and visit you yet. Adam Green speaks highly of your burgers, and I'm excited to get one soon.
Yeah, Adam is on the Mount Rushmore of Paradise Valley burger greatness. Absolutely.
Is there a picture of Adam somewhere on that wall?
Yeah, it's in the bathroom, but
Hope it's the women's restroom.
Look at this guy.
We don't discuss the women's restroom, man. That's actually the nicest part of the whole entire restaurant. My brother designed that one, so the rest of it was my fault.
I'm just glad people are looking at me when they're pissing. That's a nice thought for me.
Especially when you're all quarantined up and stuff like that, keep you company.
So,
I'm glad all of our beards are coming in nicely during quarantine.
Yeah, the social distance.
Dude, I just shaved. I'm back to work tomorrow.
I'm being optimistic. I took it down.
Pretty cool.
All right, hang on a sec, guys. When there's more than 4 of us on the screen, it becomes crazy hectic. So, Kyle, I'm just gonna real quick send you the back for a moment. Adam Green, I do want to keep you here for a second, and Brett, I want to hear kind of your take on this from the restaurant side. Actually, as a matter of fact, Kyle, I'll keep you here. Rob, if you don't mind hanging out backstage. From the restaurant side, we're discussing kind of the cost benefit analysis of opening, and then let's say having a limited capacity, trying to keep physical distancing. Is it about are you weighing out safety? Are you weighing out dollars and cents? What are you doing? What's your plan? And
yeah, man. Well, there's definitely a ton to consider as far as safety.
Nope. Oh,
sorry, I was getting a phone call there. Safety is obviously of the utmost importance of my clientele because they keep me in business, and of my staff because they also keep me in business. So that's number one. But basically, over the past week, I've been talking to Brian, who Adam knows, who's been like my right hand literally since the day I opened the restaurant, a long-term friend of mine, and discussing with my managers. He's like, dude, 95% of these customers are dying to get in here right now. I personally, I'm not huge into it because we're making, we're profiting as it is right now, not tremendously, not nearly as close as to what we normally would be, but our head is above water. And I know this is just going to open up another can of fucking worms as far as I'm going to have to keep another employee on at all times and stuff like that. So, at the end of the day, it was a tough call, but I decided that if my customers want to dine in, we're going to let them. So we have 4 tables. Usually we have like 15, 12, something like that. So we've definitely cut back the amount that they're going to do it. Just started a mandatory mask policy that's starting tomorrow for the employees to, keep everyone safe and stuff like that. So, doing what we can do. But at the end of the day, man, I guess it's kind of like just like the government, it's a democracy. What the people want that's what I try to give them. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what it is.
Do you foresee anyone?
I can't hear you.
No, that's not good.
Well, that's.
I can't hear
Can you hear me?
Did I mute him?
Hey, Kyle, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
I want to ask this question.
Oh, shit. Let me try to leave and come back because I can't hear you guys.
Sounds good. And Adam, if he comes back and still can't hear me for any reason, we can. Yeah, I know, right? That's the fun view that happens accidentally.
That's my news anchor view.
Bring Rob back in here briefly. Rob, if you're with us, I know you're muted at the moment. So, do you foresee anyone doing like a limited menu, or would that help in the cost benefit analysis of reopening, or do you see them having a minimum spend? That's almost something that might piss people off to an extent, but
I think we've seen people do limited menus right now. I know there's a lot of my friends' businesses.
Yeah,
that's the conversation. There's also talks of doing, a dine-in service fee to cover kind of staffing expenses as well. So
it's going to have to be a limited menu. I mean, I don't know if you've seen in other parts of the country, Wendy's and the McDonald's are limiting hamburgers from their menu because they can't get access to the supply chain, which is another argument for kind of a slow open for some of this. In general, is some of those supply chains have to be activated. Believe it or not, this may fall in the murder hornet category, but for places that are dormant for a while with standing water, even fresh water, Legionnaire's disease can develop in refrigeration systems and water systems. So, again, the 21% at the top of the show of people probably returning in the first week. That's okay. That's a good number for us to sort of work with if we're going to work with it. And I just wanted to touch a little bit on the restaurateurs here. I feel terrible for you. You're going to have a mix of regular people that you know and love, and you're going to have open carry guys and people who are going to make a political statement about how you should be open 100% and screw the government. And then you're going to have the Yelper crowd and the Facebook comment people, and they're going to be taking notes, and it could be very tenuous for a lot of folks. And so
yeah, I'm used to people chiming in with all sorts of bullshit, though. You know what I'm saying? Like people always are going to have something to say. Like, I do totally agree with you. It's going to open up a can of worms. People responding on Facebook, oh, you shouldn't have opened. Oh, you should have opened. But at the end of the day, people are going to bitch regardless of what you do. So you just got to, like I said, take care of the people as best as you can, man. But I do agree it's going to open up a massive can of worms for sure. Like, are you in the business as well?
I'm the director for the Brewers Guild, so I represent them and sort of have been a part of getting us to the point where we could have this option to open. So
nice, good for you.
I want to bring in Brandon Casey. I see him; he's doing the smirk back there, listening. So, Adam, give me 1 second. I'm gonna bring Brandon in.
Oh no, I don't hear that dude again.
It's just me. He doesn't get me.
Oh, I think I hear him now.
Okay.
Oh shit! What's up, man?
This is great. All right, hang on. I want to bring in Brandon. Kyle, give me a second. I want to take you out for just a moment there. And Adam, Brandon Casey, your input on this. I'll let our dear friend Brett Shapiro figure out how his phone works.
Dude, you're worse than me. I love it. Brad, you're making me look good. Thank you.
Can he hear you? That's the question.
I don't know.
Oh, well. Hey, so what were we talking about? Just interested to get your take on
that. Dude, it's like even just the phone call I just had right now. We used to have a dine-in special that was get half of your wings free on Sundays and Mondays. And it was always dine-in only, and they're very surprised that I'm not giving away free food right now.
I mean, I was there when you got one of those phone calls, and someone literally was like yelling through the phone, like, "It's on your website. What the hell?"
And it says fucking dine-in only anyway.
Yeah, cool. We're only doing
Getting
takeout.
rid of that bullshit. But it's like there is that expectation with the Yelpers and whatnot and Karens. Let me speak to the manager, guess. Like even just that phone call, like I would, yeah, dude, cool. You want 20 wings? I'm not financially in a situation where I can give you 10 extra for free because that price point was built on the fact that you were going to dine in and drink and watch football all day. Well, I don't have sports. I don't have dine in. I do have painted nails. So, but that's all I got.
I was gonna talk about that. That you went full like 2000s emo, but we'll wait. You do have Korean baseball.
I mean, I sit at a dive bar by myself all day. What is more emo than that?
I'm just saying, you could open up for 6 a.m. Korean baseball and beer.
And social distancing would be easy because nobody would fucking come.
We're getting desperate for sports, man. I started a Korean fantasy baseball team, and I don't even watch baseball.
I watched the UGA final collegiate spike ball tournament the other day on ESPN.
I mean, I bet on 2 hobos in the parking lot the other day, so.
I'll take that action.
They weren't even fighting. I was just waiting for it.
I think Brett's back, by the way, and this is a good time to ask this question to you and Brett. Do restaurant reviews matter right now? It's a great question. Do they?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. They always matter. Word of mouth is huge. To be honest with you, we've kind of struggled with the change as far as changing from 100% takeouts to being 90% dine-in. It's definitely been a process, especially considering the volume that we were still doing, which we weren't even expecting to do. So yeah, man, totally matters. I expect every burger to come out of my restaurant to be kick-ass, regardless of anything. To be honest.
Where eating it? No, and that's why you're good at what you do.
Damn, dude, I can't hear the dude on the right, and he looks fucking cool. I feel like I know you.
He was giving you a compliment. He said that's why you do what you do.
Top left now. That's the situation.
You know what? It's a hodgepodge of Brett using his phone instead of a laptop. I blame Adam Green for not giving you proper instructions. It's Adam's fault.
No. Adam warned me. I'm kind of not the most technological human being, but I do have a desktop. I'll bust it out for you next week if I can. Take the spiel out.
I love it. So, and for anyone watching, I'm just going to put your name up here. People haven't had a chance to really get a full introduction to Brett. So, Brett from Paradise Valley Burger Company, thank you. And that's some insight that comes from a restaurant owner directly. So, we talked about restaurant reviews. We talked about a limited menu or a set minimum spend. Is that something you do? Does that piss people off? I don't know if we got your take on that, Brett. You may have been gone for that.
For like a restricted menu, is that what you said?
Like a restricted menu, or do you almost take a reservation with like a spending minimum? Or you guys were talking about let's get a phone call. You guys were talking about possibly doing like a dine-in service charge, right?
Oh shit!
Brett's making me look good.
Brett makes you look like
you guys hear me? Sorry, I got a phone call and I lost it. Well, if you can hear me, I'm going to pretend like you can. I'm going to explain what you said. Basically, what I'm doing. Thank you guys. I'm selling everything we can. So we have our whole menu offered to. Oh shit. To I think I'm done here. Hello. Oh shit. What's up? Yeah. Yeah. So to restrict the menu, we'll kind of fuck it up even more, if that makes sense. We're like used to selling the whole entire menu, so to like not sell this, sell that makes it even harder. So we've honestly sold everything. My whole attacking process this whole entire time was, instead of posting a bunch of shit, COVID-19, this is our changes, this is that. I'm like, dude,
that they won't have their wings for
food too. I'm sick of hearing this shit. I'm just gonna give people the best food items I possibly can, advertise that. They know that we're going through takeout only. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are aware of what's going on. So I honestly was just trying to give my customers normality, not canceling shit. I feel like everything's getting canceled.
Right.
As much as we can, like, give people happiness in hamburgers.
100%. I don't know if he can hear me, but I agree. I mean, that makes sense.
Gentlemen, I can't hear you, man. I'm going to come do this next week for you guys, okay?
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure meeting y'all. Thank you, man.
Thanks, man. You know, he touches on a point that I kind of wanted to highlight earlier. There's a lot of different opinions. Well, first of all, we all need to agree that no Karens, no Chads allowed in the restaurant. That needs to be a policy for everybody. You know, there's anytime you hit a polarizing issue, anytime you hit something that's kind of challenging, we're in a really weird time where there's no normal as far as like mental health is concerned. And I wish he was still here, but he kind of said, like, I want to give people some sense of normalcy and I want to give them some sense of continuity. And I really respect that. And go one step further to say right now, like, you know, there's a lot of chances for mental health issues right now. There's a lot of chances for depression and things to kind of creep in and accumulate. And one of the really shitty byproducts of that, and I can speak from firsthand experience, is that you start to become even more convicted in points, and you start to see kind of the second best or the third best qualities in people instead of assuming their positive intentions. And there's no real answer to that except for mindfulness. And so that's kind of one of the reasons why we wanted to do the show today, is to kind of highlight that there are no evil demagogues who own a small restaurant in Phoenix or Tucson who are trying to overturn the universe or kill your family. And there are no people who are staying at home and being conscientious and mindful of safety before making money, who are trying to destroy the universe and put everybody on long-term socialized healthcare. That's just not the way it's going down right now. And so I'm glad that we've had a lot of different opinions who are able to kind of bridge the gaps on that.
It's nice to see that. It's also nice to see that it's not just, you know, left and right, black or white. There's a lot going into these decisions and making them as a business owner. And for us as consumers, you know, deciding on whether or not we want to go out and spend time amongst I got distracted by that lovely comment from Amos. I think you should come back in here for this one. There you go, buddy.
What you guys are saying, though, is almost like there's no, unless you're trying to like be evil in one way or the other, and no one is, there's no wrong answer for this situation, right? Everyone wants the best for the industry. Everyone wants what's best for their. If someone wants to open tomorrow or whenever, who are we to say, how dare you? And if someone wants to say, you know, we're going to hang out for a couple of weeks or so, we're going to let this play out, see what things look like, there's nothing wrong with that either. And it's important not to be mad at anyone for doing what they do. Now, granted, if someone's just completely open, full steam, no distancing measures, you could question like, hey, if you're going to do this, at least, you know, a little bit. But how do you blame someone for trying to make their living? And how do you blame someone, like you said, Adam, for trying to stay safe?
Well, and then to add on that, I can't blame people right now for wanting to get out, man.
No, not at all.
Some people are stressed. I've talked to people. I've got a group of improv friends that I did improv comedy with, and we do a weekly Zoom chat. And there are people who are homebodies that never go out, and they have been saying they cannot wait to go sit down and have someone pour them a beer and make them a hamburger at a bar so they can just get out of their house. And these are people you couldn't get out of the house at all ever. You know?
I just want to make boozy friends with somebody I don't know. That's I miss that. I'm going to be honest.
Exactly. Brandon Casey's back with us. We'll bring him in here. Brandon, you now you got people wondering if they can get free wings. So
I saw that. That's
just saying.
Yeah, dine-in only.
Dine-in only. Yeah. So if they come in, the wings are free.
That phone call was actually for a bottle of vermouth, 3 gallons of margaritas, and 1 bag of chips. So I'll fuck.
When will that make it to my house?
You anywhere near South Tempe?
No.
I'm in South Tempe. Let's have that pay that forward. Just have it delivered to me.
You don't want me in your house.
Brandon will drink your beer, and he'll bring you a bag of chips and a gallon of margaritas.
Well, it's got to come with food. Yeah,
it's got to come with food. Don't you worry one bit.
I made the margaritas, and he's getting a bottle of vermouth. And whether or not he likes chips, I don't fucking care. It's $1.
I just wanted to say that the people are going to have feelings on this, and they're going to, you know, I think, fortunately, I didn't hit send on the little box every time I had a feeling or thought. People are going to feel strongly about stuff, and the thing that sort of brings me back to the center again, and because I've been on all sides of my opinions on this. is the larger economy. There's been some screwing around with it. There's been some. There's been a.
Whoops.
Did we lose
I
Rob?
lost Rob.
Well,
Rob,
lost
you
him.
lost your audio, my friend.
I thought I went deaf for a second. That's good.
I don't know what happened.
Go ahead. You just broke.
Hear me either. Like, oh no, it happened.
They always told me it's going to happen.
Guys, if you're in the audience, please take a moment to comment and let us know what your answer to the question below is. Are you planning to dine in? A few people have responded. Anita says, nope, not yet.
You know what's interesting though, Yusuf, with that, and like I can only speak for myself, but I imagine it's similar for a lot of people. And Brandon, you've done a lot of like the carry out stuff too. Is that the restaurants that I've wanted to eat at, or we've wanted to dine from, we've been able to get that food. Now we haven't been like the atmosphere of sitting in the bar or sitting in the restaurant. Like when you go out to like a nice restaurant, part of the reason you spend however much you do on food is because you want to be at that place. But in terms of like, I've gone to PB Burger Company a few times since this started easily, gone to the pizza place that's 2 doors down from them, Paradise Valley Pizza Company too. And it's like, we still get the food we want, but you don't get the entire experience, but that's the trade-off, right? So like, if I want to, I can support, we can all support the places we want to support. We can eat the food we like to eat, just we have to eat it at home. So it's like, that's the trade-off for safety for me. Like, I know we're not planning on dining anywhere anytime soon, in that if we want PB Burger Company, we can get it without having to dine in the restaurant.
I mean, I want that now. Now I want a burger.
Yeah,
One,
sure.
And I don't want to cook it myself. That's what I miss. I want to have somebody else make me a drink and somebody else cook my food.
Isn't that the hope of hopefully part of this episode is people come out of this with like a little more, assuming the best intent of both consumers and business owners. And you would hope that the consumers that come in will not go full Karen. I mean, people are craving interaction. I mean, I'm sure there's like fives of people that now are interested in Yusuf's improv group, for Christ's sake.
Five people. That's very kind of you, sir.
Yeah.
I mean, your parents.
More than one hand.
It's a very well-established improv group. Thank you. It's been around a very long time. Matter of fact, they opened their second.
I think that's one of the reasons we want to have this whole episode today, though, is to talk about the complexity of this and all the various considerations. I mean, we all started this largely as a way to support local food and drink establishments in that community, right? And we all want to go out there. We want to support those places, like Adam said. I've been doing takeout from the places that I've already seen a couple of places I really love go out of business. But I can't be dining out all the time, and it's so there's a limit to how much you can do, and you got to kind of pick and choose. But when people open, I hope everyone considers the complicated nature of that, like the things we're talking about with employees and consumers feeling safe, owners wanting to support have their business be viable, support their employees, have their customers feel safe. It's a lot more complicated.
And of course, like earlier, a no Chad,
so tired of Chads.
Full effect. And believe it or not, there's some Chads and Karens that are still in line getting COVID tests and not showing up with a mask. Just
you got to put the mask out to get the thing shoved in your nose. So
not for the thing, for a blood test to go inside of a building.
That's a Chad move. Actually,
happened yesterday. I was in shock. So, Rob, I think we've got Rob back. I want everybody to hang tight. We've got a couple things we want to touch on, and then once Kyle's back, we're going to talk to him about something he worked on in Tucson. But we're up on
Can I share my new beer?
Yeah, I was going to say we're up on that hour mark, so I do want to say, what are you guys drinking? Adam Green, I'm going to pull you out real quick. We'll have Brett show us his new beer, and Rob, if you've opened anything, you can tell us what else you got. Whoa, hold on us. What do we got, Rob?
I got a crispy from the shop.
I love that stuff.
What up, Calhoun?
I got a half acre. I believe it's crocus. I'm not even sure you're supposed to pronounce that.
Crocus. Let's go with crocus.
But whatever it is hazy and delightful.
Nice.
Look at that color.
Well, Rob, you got cut off with some technical.
I just want to finish my thought. We don't know what this is doing to the larger economy. During World War II, we were making 7 airplanes an hour in this country. And for a period, we couldn't even make a 75-cent mask to save our lives. It's going to take months for us to get Clorox wipes, apparently. So there are some issues, and we cannot pretend that the healthcare system can sustain an indefinite period of us just kind of being in half motion. And,
No.
the virus's timeline. And so if we knew antibody and the testing and all that stuff was gonna there was a timeline. We had a vaccine. This strategy works, but when we don't know that, we have to start saying, hey, we need to have some of the economy rolling here in a little bit. But I think people's attitude would change if circumstances cut off the internet, electricity, water service, because that could happen just like it happened in the meatpacking industry. So we have to be flexible.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It does. I mean, it's interesting because other states, I'm talking to some friends in other states. We're going to have some guests coming on over the next week or so that are in other states and in the industry to tell us what's happening over there. For example, the way they're phasing things out in Washington State, some bars are looking at a possible timeline of not being able to open until mid to late July. That definitely puts people in a position that they're financially going to have to, start coming up with ways to keep things floating.
And it's tough. I mean, that's honestly, Yusuf, that's like a legitimate thing that keeps me awake at night. Like a lot of people banked on the May 1st thing, like that was like it. And clearly that was not the answer. I was optimistically, fiscally planning and mentally planning to maybe have some sort of weird social distance 4th of July party. But in reality, it's going to be fall, dude. We'll be lucky to have like 100% occupancy by Labor Day.
Sure. That makes sense. And one of the other things that I've heard from other people, actually my buddy Matt James over at Bathtub Gin and Company in Seattle said, a lot of places, like you said earlier, Brett, are not going to survive this, just what has happened already. Imagine what would happen if, let's say, you opened your business and put all of your resources and time and effort into reopening right now tomorrow, and 3 weeks from now, shit hits the fan, and they tell everybody, hey, we got to shut this thing back down. We don't know what happened, but it's, worst scenario, God forbid, we've got a massive outbreak again on our hands, and everybody's got to shut their dine-in establishments. Well,
and isn't that the worst case scenario? Is if you have another a second shutdown, because then everybody that was able to get through the first, and that's just like I was saying, if there's a message to come out of this, it's that it's complicated for business owners, but it's also complicated for the consumers. Like, we all would love to be giving each other hugs, running up big tabs at Brandon's restaurant, having a great time, and most of us
so good.
But there's a reason why people are still it's hard right now because we're dealing with the unknown, and when it's the scourge that is coronavirus, is uncertainty means you need to err on the side of caution for most people, right? And it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it's hard to do, and and Yusuf knows this. I don't even fucking like rules. I'm a huge fan of not rules.
Yeah.
We saw your fingernails.
Yeah, you're definitely a rebel, my friend.
I woke up like this. Okay, it wasn't my idea. It just happened.
How good is your My Chemical Romance cover band?
Ooh, it's my Pandemic Romance, and it's fucking solid.
My Pandemic Romance.
It's just me by myself in a dive bar all day. Which
I was going to say it's you and chicken
wings.
And right now we're having a pandemic bromance, everybody. So
I'm gonna hug Brett so hard in October.
Well, Sam says we all miss Brett's hugs.
Oh man,
Sam, you've had one. I want one. It's not even. Nice banner. Well played.
I have an assistant producer now, so I did that hands free. It's amazing. Well, I do want to touch on a few things. FYI, this is hilarious. You really started a thing with the Chads and Karens.
Oh, I did. I knew I shouldn't have said fucking Karen.
And you missed Bob's comment, I think, where he said, I am embracing dine-in, and he's bringing his friend Karen to
I saw that. I recommend Paradise Valley Burger Company.
He's not here to defend himself.
Damn it.
Yusuf, I think you missed. I said earlier in the public comments that Karen would like to speak to this show's producer for the comments.
I saw that. I did see that.
That's fantastic.
Yusuf's mom's in the other room.
What?
Your mom's in the other room. It's Mother's Day. The producer's over there.
I have Sundays it's family day, man. Of course I'm at my parents' house. It's Mother's Day. Whatever.
No, I said your mom's the producer. She lets you do this.
Yes, she does. I asked her for permission this morning. I woke up.
No, she's the reproducer.
Ooh.
I'll let myself out.
Okay. Did you leave?
Can I just point out that was Can I just point out that was the rare Mother's Day dad joke?
Well done. Well done. That was you're right. It was a Mother's Day dad joke.
It was like a meta dad joke by doing that dad joke of a dad joke.
All right, so I do want to keep you guys here if you guys don't mind. Brandon, I know you got a line out the door and people just free wings right now. So thank you for giving us your time. How late are you going to be there, buddy? I'll come see you. Well, we lost.
I do have to go to my mom's house.
That's what I was saying. I'm making sure you're going to see your mother today, right?
Yes, I'm going to see my mother. Gonna bring her some Wagyu.
For the few dozen people watching us, make sure you call your mothers. And or like if you're tell your wife if you have children, Happy Mother's Day. If you have
dogs,
Happy Mother's Day to the cat moms. Dog moms.
Maybe ask a duck if they're your mom. Why not? Better guys.
See you, buddy.
Keep it emo.
Thanks for joining us, my friend.
I thought you were going to say call Karen and say you're a terrible mother.
No, she's a great mom. She's just a horrible human being in every other dimension.
Adam, you want to talk a little bit about what Kyle has going on down in Tucson, and then bring him in?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, better yet, let's bring Kyle in and have him talk about what's going on. We've definitely explored a lot of what Phoenix is doing as far as like beat the boredom with the Bartenders Guild and trying to support service industry folk in some way or another. And Kyle has definitely been instrumental in something that's kind of cool down here. So let's pop you in. I think I got the thumbs up here. Kyle,
back for a second. Kyle, thank you for joining us. Adam?
Yeah.
So tell us about Tips for Tucson, man.
Oh boy. So like every other good charity starts, I was smoking the devil's lettuce and sipping a whiskey for breakfast. And another bartender friend of mine, Eric Smith, who I'm sure Adam knows, bartends at the Kingfisher, has been around for ages, texted me this link from Indianapolis, where I'm actually from. I'm from Indiana originally. Served in the military out here, so I just stayed here. And it was a digital tip sheet of sorts where it had the server's name, their Venmo, their PayPal, where they worked, or a cook's name, and all that stuff. And I thought we should do something like that. And jokingly, I half-heartedly told them, "Yeah, we can do that," because of what I was consuming at the time. And then we did it. We started a group called Tips for Tucson. You can go on to the Facebook page and look for Tips for Tucson. Go on, find your favorite server, your bartender, your cook, whatever. It's got their Venmo account, their PayPal accounts, their digital tips of sorts. We actually did a concert 2 weeks ago at Frog and Firkin in Tucson with a couple local musicians, Chris Graber, Drew Cooper. We had Roger Klein on as well, so many of you know him. Sponsored by Mexican Moonshine and Dillinger Brewing here in Tucson. And we raised $4,400. So we have 165-ish people on that spreadsheet, and that was about 25 to $30 a person, basically. So they were able to go out, and we dispersed it evenly. They were able to go out there, fill their gas tanks, buy a meal from a local restaurant, buy some diapers. We got it's Mother's Day. We have a lot of single parents and single mothers on here. So they were able to help provide for their families. And we did it as a grassroots thing. A lot of people have seen the videos that the local Tucson chefs have done, and nothing to take away from them. That's great. They're using their popularity and their celebrity to help their restaurants out. But in the meantime, there was nobody doing anything for bartenders. There's nobody doing anything for service staff. You know, when these restaurants close, those people don't have an income. Or if they don't close, again, like we talked about earlier, they're still open. Again, those people don't have an income because they don't get unemployment. They're not getting the tips. You know, we're in season right now. We're at the end. Today is one of the busiest days of the year. And I wanted to find a way for us to get some money into the pockets and get some attention, because a lot of those people aren't going to go out. You don't know them. You know, if you post it on a YouTube video, Joe Smo, Tucson and Phoenix don't know who Joe Smo or, you know, whatever is. So I wanted to find a way to get them a little bit of money, a little bit of like lift them up, a little help you out. So
you mentioned earlier that you caught a little bit of flack when you first initially launched this, right?
Yes, I actually caught some flack last week too, where I was accused of doing this for my own good. You know, in full disclosure, I am a distributor. I work for Arizona Beer and Cider. So I'm drinking. I'm gonna shamelessly self-promote, but I have a Sleepy Dog peanut butter milk stout here.
You do what you got to do, man.
I do what I got to. But I was accused by some individuals of doing that to promote my own business, that I was only looking out for myself, that we had actually raised more money, that I was stealing it. And the funny thing was, and Adam can tell you guys, I donated $100 of my own money, and I was unemployed at the time. I just started back with a distributor 3 weeks ago. I did all this out of my own pocket. Anything that we raise in the auction items, I shipped with my own money. So it's this juxtaposition where we've all talked about all the, you know, we want to keep it positive. We've all talked about the great things that are happening during, you know, the coronavirus and the quarantine right now, and how the community is coming together. But it also brought out a lot of bad stuff. And I felt like shit for it. I know that I didn't do that, but to have people kind of run your name through the mud just because you started this charity and they want to take credit for it is, I mean, it's terrible. I'm like Adam and myself were very similar, both big teddy bears, and I think we take a lot of things personally. So it was difficult for me. I went total black this week, and I don't know if I want to do this and whatnot. But I mean, we're turning into a full 501c3 organization. It's going to be available year round. It's going to be tax deductible. We're going to have grants available for everyone. So, like, out of the darkness, there's still light, and it still needs to happen. So I'm going to keep doing it regardless of what everybody else thinks.
Yeah. Well, let's take a second to really kind of focus on the bright points. I mean, like, you're doing a great thing, and haters are going to be haters. And also in a digital universe, which is what we're all relegated to right now, people are one-dimensionalized because you only see what you read. You rarely get an opportunity to engage with somebody in the flesh, and this is as close as we can do, and it's a big mission for what we're doing on the show. But more importantly, you already nailed it. The key to defeating all the trolls of the world is transparency.
Yeah.
When you put out what you're doing, you put out why you're doing it, and the books are open, then let the haters say what they're going to say, because they got no ground to stand on. I will flip that around. I will tell you, I know somebody who benefited specifically from Tips for Tucson, and I actually kind of teared up when I read this post, but they said, you know what? I did not have a way to do anything nice for the mother of my children before I got this. And today I'm gonna do something really sweet for my wife with the $30 that I got out of Tips for Tucson. And I may choke up now. Maybe it's the Hypermash Hydra, maybe because you guys are doing a really sweet thing. But I mean, no, but realistically, dude, like stay on the positive side of this and let the haters fall to the wayside, because you're giving people hope and you're giving people a little bright point right now. And you need to keep doing it, man.
Well, I appreciate that. I think what's awesome, if I can circle back real quick, you know, we talked about mental health during the pandemic, and depression, suicide. I fed, Hipster Tucson itself has fed 10 single parents and families over the last couple of weeks. And we've partnered with local restaurants like Mama Luisa's, Sonoran Brunch Company, Frog and Firkin. And, we fed a mom and her 6 children for an entire week. I mean, that's a lot of money just off of that.
Well done, sir. I think that's something a lot of people don't realize right now is, depending on our social circles and who we're talking to and where we're looking, we don't see the people in need. Some of them aren't necessarily telling us if they're in need. If you are, let somebody know. Everyone's here to help each other out. That's why we started doing this, was to help our favorite industries out. Food and beverage. I mean, it's what we're passionate about. We all met over beers originally at some point, So it's amazing to see that you guys are helping people, just like USBG has been doing up here for out of work service industry folks, getting them, eat for a week, 12 pounds of groceries, getting them a meal for Beat the Boredom. They fed 500 people with 12 pounds of groceries. It was really enough for a 4-person home for a week. There are people still using some of those groceries today. The milk's probably bad, guys. The milk's probably bad.
Not good.
It's just cheese now. It's
fine.
It's fine.
That's awesome.
Why did that cheese taste fine? What are you talking about? Well, that arugula.
Yeah. Cheese, it's fine.
Guys, I want to bring back in Rob and Adam Green. We're just over the hour mark, and we could talk about this all day. But the beauty of it is, I think this is still going to be a topic of conversation on Tuesday, as we have a guest from out of state talking about what's going on in their state in terms of reopening back up. And we'll bring in some other folks as well that couldn't come in with us. And I want to be able to, Rob, I'm going to bring you in, Adam Green. What I want to do, and Rob, hopefully you can help us out with this, and we can have a conversation with you and some of the members of the guild. I want to touch base with some people who did open this week after this week is over, maybe next Sunday. Get some folks like Matt in here, the folks from OSO, and just say, hey, how did the week go? What is it looking like? If you don't mind helping us out with that, I think it would be amazing.
Sure. And I just wanted to add, Santan is opening, 12 West is opening, and State 48 is opening at midnight tonight.
Wow.
Which that 21% is going to be like 1%, I would think, at 12 a.m. to 2. So I hope that they follow the distancing policies. I hope it's not a mad rush, but those are 3 ones that I just picked up off of social media. So. Well,
keep us posted, man. And I'm not opposed to it. And boys, we can talk about this later offline. I'm not opposed to doing a show out of the regular rotation schedule to just follow up with some of these people, just a short 15, 20 minutes while they're open, So, yeah, we'll talk about it, Rob. I definitely would do that. And Kyle, you'll have to, you and Adam Ledford have to keep us posted on what's going on in the Tucson area as well. For everyone who has watched today, guys, thank you. This has been an awesome conversation. We're going to have it again. I know that we have a lot of fun. It's lots of giggles and laughs and beer. Today was a lot of information coming at you all at once, but we thought it was important to have this conversation with you guys today as things begin to reopen. For a funny moment as then, Friday, I went to the ATM, and right next to the ATM, the bank ATM was right next to a Wells Fargo front door and a Great Clips, okay? And the Great Clips had no less than 12 men in different states of duress and dishevelment outside with masks on. Really bad hair days. I just stood there and laughed. It was great.
Clearly, Yusuf didn't stop at the Great Clips.
I haven't been to a Great Clips in 12 plus years, man. Probably longer.
So some of us don't need much of a Great Clip, so.
I love how
some of us don't partake of the Great Clips.
I love how quick Rob and Kyle were just like, "What? Hello, my baby. Hello." Oh man, this has been fantastic, guys. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget, please help support your local industry, but also help us keep doing what we're doing here. Check out socialdistancedrinkingclub.com. Get a sweet shirt. They're awesome. So take a look. There's women's racerback tanks. We've all got ours that should be coming in like the next couple of days, guys. So I'm excited. Woo! Yeah. But gentlemen, I'll hit you with the empty glass as I always do. Thank you guys so much for joining us for the Sunday Day Drink special edition here. Salud. The Sunday Day Drink is the bar open. Don't forget, episode on Tuesday, 7:30 p.m.
You can't go to the thing and then come back, man.
I can do whatever I want.
Last time that happened, Adam Green was neck deep in a sandwich.
Caught him slipping.
Have a great afternoon. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.